Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. There's been a very interesting and surprising turn of events this week, and it has to do with a person who those of us who've been doing political programs or who've been working for the media know who she is. And I've been following her history for the last 10, 15 years. But I think we are all very surprised how suddenly she just literally jumped out of the box and has become what appears to be a very likely candidate to represent the opposition for the presidential elections. I'm talking about Xochitl Galvez, and who is, when you kind of read her background, you listen to her, I'm sure many of you may have been following her this week. When you listen to her, you're just like, wow, she's a very different politician and very different candidate. And who knows, maybe she'll be the one who can unite the opposition. What do you think, Federico? Joining us again today is Federico Berrueto. You know him well. He's been joining us throughout the years, political analyst. And were you surprised? I mean, what's your opinion of Xochitl Galvez as a potential candidate? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ana Maria. Well, Xochitl Galvez is the right candidate at the right moment. I think biography and circumstance indicates that she is the perfect candidate for the opposition.
Yeah.
Of course, there is a process, an internal process, but it's very likely that she is going to win that process. That is to say, she is going to be the candidate of the opposition. And to some extent, I think is quite similar to Lopez Obrador 5 years ago, in the sense that she communicates very well to the whole people, the poor people, the middle classes, even to the people at the top.
Right.
She communicates very well from south to the center of the country to the north. And she's really a very, very good candidate. And she has something that doesn't have Lopez Obrador. She has humor. She is very, very well to communicate with humor. And her humor is spontaneous. That is to say, is a natural candidate. If she behaves like she behaves always, I think she's going to get a lot of support and understanding at the moment when the people is quite tired about traditional politics. So I think it's a very refreshing person in politics, and many people are happy on that.
You know, her biography it's extraordinary. I mean, regardless of whatever happens to her as a politician, I mean, I think she is going to go down in Mexican history, Mexican political history, as, you know, a woman with a good opportunity to become a presidential candidate. But more importantly, I mean, she comes from an indigenous background, and I know that there's these these questions, or they've tried to question her indigenous background by the president. But she also comes what appears to be extreme poverty. I don't know if it's, extreme poverty, but she clearly comes from a background where, and she talks about how her father was an alcoholic, there was family violence, she had to work from very young selling gelatins or jello and in the plaza. I mean, her story is incredible, and how she came to Mexico City and how she was able to use a public university. And it's kind of like one of those extraordinary examples of the importance of having public and free universities for people like her. She becomes an engineer, and she seems to be a relatively prosperous businesswoman. And she has also had some experience in campaigning, and she was the mayor of the Miguel Hidalgo, which is one of the boroughs in Mexico City. So she has also political experience. I mean, you couldn't make her up. I mean, their whole background seems to be perfect for a moment in which the opposition is having problems and trying to find not only a candidate, but a way of expressing a future about Mexico without necessarily just attacking or only attacking Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador's policy. So she talks about the future, while other candidates have been talking about, how bad Andrés Manuel is.
Well, she's very clever. I have to tell you that is quite surprising, because she was heading for running for mayor of Mexico City. Right. And everybody thought that she was the right candidate for that post. And when she tried, to respond to the president for an attack in the morning meeting, and right. The president didn't allow her to speak about her point, her defense. Well, at that moment, she decided to think about the presidency. Mm-hmm. And many people thought that was the right decision. Of course, some people said that she was gambling in the sense that very surely she was going to win the candidacy, or not only the candidacy, the post of mayor of the city of Mexico. To run for the presidency was pretty risky, even though I think right now many people think that was the right decision. And at this moment, all the conversation since she announced her candidacy for the presidency, all the conversation is about her. And that is very important. Why? Because politics more than ever is about communication. And she communicates very well, and many people are talking about her. So for the first time since Lopez Obrador took office, a politician from the opposition is getting all the national attention of the media.
What could potentially stop her from becoming the candidate? I mean, she literally has been in the limelight for about a week, maybe a week and a half. And we now have this process by which those who want to run for president on behalf of the alliance of the opposition are now having to basically fill out, go to the parties, report, basically state their interest. And then there's a process, and we've spoken about this in the show, in which they're going to have to get 150,000 signatures. There are going to be a series of forums, debates. There's going to be polls, and then there's going to be some way people can vote. It's a complex process, but this all has to happen between now and September 3rd. She seems very likely right now to be the potential candidate, but there's a lot of issues that can come up. What would have to happen for her not to be the candidate?
It's very, very difficult to see how cannot she be a candidate. Why? Because political parties, the hierarchy of the political parties, they didn't take seriously the presidential candidacy. That is to say, they were much more concerned in the legislative posts rather in the candidacy. So the whole method is not in control of political parties, rather in a group of citizens, private citizens, that they are very serious. Electoral process that is going to be serious, and in that respect, I cannot see how political parties could influence the process in order to avoid that Xochitl Gálvez would be the candidate. Of course,
Mhm.
there is going to be opposition, there is going to be debates and everything. But
Right.
so far, she is very, very high above from all of potential candidates.
Now, who would be her? I really appreciate Federico Berrueto joining us today. One last question, because we're running out of time. Who is the most likely person that could potentially be the other contender? I mean, are we talking about Santiago Creel, the former Secretary of Gobernación under Vicente Fox?
Well, we don't know right now who is going to be, let's say, the second place candidate, because the process is quite complex. To my view, Beatriz Paredes has a lot of potential. She is from the PRI, and she has a lot of experience. But right now, I think politics is much more about how good you are to communicate, mostly for the young people or the people in the urban centers.
Right.
And I think right now, Xochitl Galvez has a lot of potential in that respect. So I could see that perhaps Beatriz Paredes is going to be the, let's say, the competition of Xochitl Galvez.
Federico Berrueto, I really appreciate you joining us today, and you have to come back really soon because we haven't mentioned it, but all these candidates, I mean, the candidates we're talking about are women. and that in itself is a change in pace. And so I would like to, hopefully you can come back next week or in the next couple of weeks and we can talk about this, not only the Xochitl Galvez phenomena, but also women are now, there is a real possibility that Mexico is going to have first woman president. That's very exciting.
Very, very surely. Yes, I concede. I agree.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Take care. We're going to go to commercial break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and you're listening and